Stage 1 begins in the jury room, where 12 strangers must reach a unanimous decision on a murder charge. The foreperson reviews the judge's instructions, emphasizing the burden of proof for first-degree murder. One juror questions the evidence timeline, referencing the court transcript's timestamp from the prosecution's witness. Initial votes are cast on small slips of paper, collected by the foreperson for a silent tally. You mark your first vote as guilty, feeling the pressure of the system's expectation for consensus. This single document will record the final judgment, requiring the foreperson's signature to be valid. Tensions rise as a juror changes their vote after rereading the charge definition from the instruction sheet. 3 hours into deliberation, the vote stands at 7 guilty, 5 not guilty, with no clear majority emerging. During the break, you overhear whispered arguments about reasonable doubt and the defendant's alibi. The foreperson requests a revote, emphasizing the need for a unanimous decision before the end of the day. These printed words define the legal standards that must guide every vote in the deliberation process. You argue that a key witness's credibility is undermined by inconsistencies in the transcript's speaker designations. After your argument, 2 jurors change their votes, bringing the tally to 6 guilty, 6 not guilty. A deadlock. Emotions flare as the deadlock persists, with one juror refusing to budge on the murder charge interpretation. The judge's order specifies that deliberation must continue until a verdict is reached or a mistrial is declared. Every word in this transcript was spoken under oath, forming the official record that the jury must now weigh. In the secret vote, you mark not guilty, influenced by the lingering doubt from the evidence review. The new tally shows a majority for not guilty, but unanimity is still required for a valid verdict. You try to persuade the last guilty voter by highlighting the burden of proof section from the instructions. After hours of debate, all 12 jurors agree on a verdict of not guilty for the murder charge. The foreperson's signature commits the jury's unanimous not guilty verdict to the official court record, ending the deliberation phase. This single sheet of paper now holds the legal weight of the jury's decision, bound for the judge's review and finalization. With the verdict sheet signed, the foreperson informs the group that they must now return to the courtroom to deliver the decision. As you pack up, the weight of the decision settles in, knowing that the defendant's fate has been determined by your vote. The instruction sheet, no longer needed, served as the legal framework that guided every argument and vote during deliberation. The bailiff's arrival signals that the court is ready to receive the verdict, moving the process from private deliberation to public declaration. The bailiff secures the verdict sheet in an envelope, maintaining the secrecy of the decision until it is formally announced in court. You fall into line with the other jurors, the procedural march back to the courtroom beginning under the bailiff's guidance. The case file, containing all the evidence and transcripts, will be sealed and stored after the verdict is entered into the record. Stepping into the hallway, you feel the institutional silence that precedes the formal courtroom proceedings and verdict announcement. The hallway echoes with distant legal proceedings, reminding you that your trial is just one of many in the system's daily grind. The transcript remains behind, its recorded words fixed in time, while the live verdict moves forward to impact the defendant's life. A fellow juror speculates on the defendant's response, highlighting the human element that persists despite the legal formality of the verdict. At the courtroom threshold, you see the judge waiting, the final authority who will oversee the verdict's entry into the legal record. You take your seat in the jury box under the watchful eyes of the judge, defendant, and attorneys, ready for the verdict reading. The judge's gavel sits ready to strike, marking the official moments when court proceedings begin, pause, or conclude with a ruling. The court clerk delivers the sealed verdict envelope to the judge, who will inspect it before the foreperson is called to read it. The judge examines the verdict sheet to ensure it is properly completed and signed, a procedural check before the public announcement. In the judge's hands, the verdict sheet represents the culmination of the trial, now awaiting verbal confirmation in open court. The judge authorizes the foreperson to read the verdict aloud, initiating the final phase where the jury's decision becomes public record. The jury returns to the courtroom for the formal verdict announcement under the watchful eyes of the legal system. The bailiff's call to rise marks the resumption of court proceedings, with the judge taking the bench to oversee the verdict. The verdict sheet, now signed and sealed, holds the jury's decision that will be entered into the official court record. The judge authorizes the foreperson to read the verdict aloud, initiating the final step in the trial's conclusion. The foreperson prepares to read the verdict, the weight of the decision evident in their posture and grip on the paper. The jury instruction sheet remains behind, its guidelines now applied in the verdict that determines the defendant's fate. The defendant waits anxiously for the verdict reading, their future hinging on the words about to be spoken in court. The attorneys are poised to react to the verdict, prepared to raise objections or motions based on the jury's decision. The judge's gavel symbolizes judicial authority, ready to maintain order during the emotional verdict announcement. The foreperson reads the first verdict, announcing not guilty for the murder charge, which triggers immediate reactions in the courtroom. The judge uses the gavel to silence the courtroom, ensuring that the verdict reading proceeds without disruption or emotional outburst. The court transcript awaits the verdict entry, documenting this moment for the permanent legal record of the trial. The defense attorney shows relief at the not guilty verdict, while the prosecutor remains professional, assessing the outcome. The foreperson reads the second verdict, finding the defendant guilty of manslaughter, adding complexity to the trial's conclusion. The case file is set aside temporarily, as the live verdict announcement overrides the documented evidence and transcripts. The judge orders the clerk to officially record the verdict, making the jury's decision part of the court's permanent files. The bailiff ensures security as the verdict is read, watching the defendant closely for any signs of disturbance or emotion. The jurors observe the verdict reading, their collective decision now being formalized in the courtroom setting. The foreperson completes the verdict reading and returns the sheet, concluding the jury's active role in the trial process. The judge thanks the jury and informs them of discharge, marking the end of their duty after the verdict is entered. The trial concludes with verdict recorded, and the jury now faces discharge and reflection on their pivotal decision. The judge finalizes the discharge order, officially releasing the 12 jurors from service after the murder trial verdict. The discharge order is filed with the case documents, marking the end of jury duty in the official legal archive. The bailiff escorts the jurors from the courtroom, their role complete, as they exit under the watchful eyes of court staff. The jury room is abandoned, with only procedural traces left behind from hours of deliberation on the murder charge. Jurors retrieve belongings in court-provided lockers, maintaining a composed silence as they process the weight of their guilty verdict. The foreperson hands back the jury instructions, concluding the panel's use of legal guidelines for the manslaughter conviction. The court transcript now includes the verdict entry, permanently documenting the jury's decision for future legal reference. One juror hesitates at the doorway, reflecting on the judicial authority symbolized by the gavel used during verdict reading. The bailiff secures the jury room, signaling the end of deliberations and the start of post-trial administrative cleanup. The courtroom empties as the legal system transitions from live trial to archival mode after the verdict announcement. The clerk archives the signed verdict sheet, ensuring the murder trial decision is stored for potential appeal or review. Jurors exit the courthouse, moving past ongoing legal proceedings that contrast with their completed duty on the high-stakes case. The case file is closed and stored, its contents now part of the legal system's permanent record after the trial's conclusion. A juror obtains the discharge certificate, formally acknowledging service completion and signing off on the court's administrative records. The judge concludes duties by reviewing the verdict transcript, ensuring accuracy before ending the judicial session for the day. The defendant's table is vacant, a silent reminder of the individual affected by the jury's guilty verdict for manslaughter. Jurors re-enter daily life outside the courthouse, carrying the procedural weight of their decision back into ordinary routines. The clerk closes the electronic recording system, finalizing the case status as completed after the verdict and discharge. One juror reflects alone on the courthouse steps, pondering the system's reliance on their vote in the murder trial aftermath. You carry the discharge certificate away from the courthouse, leaving the procedural weight of the murder trial behind in the urban noise. The discharge certificate bears the court's official seal, a tangible reminder of your completed jury duty in the high-stakes case. Another juror acknowledges you with a nod, a silent connection forged through the tense deliberation room and verdict sheet signing. The courthouse recedes from view as you ride public transit, the mundane routines contrasting with the jury's decisive vote on manslaughter. The case file is stored in the archive, its docket number now part of the legal system's permanent records after the verdict. The clerk finalizes the case status in the electronic system, marking the murder trial as completed with the guilty verdict recorded. You set aside the jury duty notice at home, the document now a relic of your role in the system's verdict process. The jury room stands vacant, the abandoned verdict sheet a ghost of the deliberation that led to the foreperson's signature. You journal about the defendant's stoic face when the guilty verdict was read, capturing a personal fragment of the trial's aftermath. The bailiff removes evidence boxes from the courtroom, each exhibit number corresponding to testimony reviewed during jury deliberations. The verdict sheet rests in the case file, its foreperson's signature sealing the jury's decision on the high-stakes murder charge. A court letter thanks you for jury service, its standardized language underscoring the system's reliance on citizen participation. The judge annotates the trial transcript, ensuring accuracy for potential appeal, with highlighted timestamps and speaker designations. The courthouse hallway empties as night falls, its marble surfaces echoing the day's legal proceedings now concluded. You share snippets of the trial with family, the conversation limited by confidentiality rules from jury instructions. The administrator archives the jury logbook, containing your signature and discharge details from the murder trial service. The courthouse clock tracks time elapsed since the verdict reading, its steady ticks mirroring the system's procedural continuity. You struggle to focus at work, haunted by the deliberation room's tense atmosphere and the final vote on the verdict sheet. The case file is digitized for electronic storage, its contents preserved in the system's database after the trial's closure. You encounter media coverage of the case, reflecting on how your jury vote influenced the public narrative of the verdict. The aftermath stage begins as you are discharged from jury duty and the system processes the verdict's finality. The judge formally discharges you from jury duty, thanking you for your service in the high-stakes murder trial deliberation. Your discharge papers bear the court's official seal, marking the end of your legal obligation as a juror in the trial. You leave the courthouse, the weight of the verdict lingering as you re-enter daily life after the intense trial. The case file is boxed for archival, its contents sealed as part of the legal system's permanent record after the verdict. You file away the jury duty notice, a tangible reminder of your role in determining the defendant's fate in the murder case. The court sends a feedback survey via email, seeking input on the deliberation process and your overall jury duty satisfaction. The jury room stands vacant, its tense atmosphere replaced by silence after the verdict was reached and recorded. You and your friend analyze the media coverage of the verdict, reflecting on how the jury's decision influences public perception of the legal system. You read media reports on the case, seeing how the verdict is portrayed in public discourse and news coverage. The verdict sheet rests in the archive, its decision permanently recorded for future legal reference and potential appeal processes. During a walk, you contemplate the impact of your jury decision on the defendant's life and the broader justice system. A court thank you card arrives, acknowledging your civic duty with standardized but appreciative language for your jury service. Time elapses since the verdict. The courthouse clock tracking the ongoing procedural life and continuity of the legal system. You journal a final entry about the trial, capturing the personal weight of participating in the justice system as a juror. The case file is digitized for electronic storage, ensuring its preservation in the court's database for future legal access. The courtroom sits empty, its role in the trial concluded, awaiting the next case on the docket and proceedings. The court issues a stipend check for your jury service, a financial acknowledgement of your time and civic duty performed. At work, you find yourself distracted, recalling the tense atmosphere in the jury room during the high-stakes murder trial. You reflect on how the legal system depends on citizens like